Hey everybody, I'm Jordan with Warpfire Minis, and we made it to round 4 and we're facing into Big Waaagh this time. This is one where they've got really easy battle tactics, they've got an auto-complete grand strategy, so gonna have to play a great game. Let's just jump right into it. So first up, this is how we deployed, and then for the mission, this is limited resources. So there's 6 objectives, but if you control an objective for 2 of your consecutive turns, then you can no longer control that objective for the rest of the game. So you'll notice in deployment, neither one of us deployed our models onto these objectives, because if you start out deployed on it, then you control it, then your opponent likely won't make it down there to take it from you immediately. So you're talking turn 2, you're gonna control it again, but then it's gone for the rest of the game. So since the Iron Jaws are pretty hardy, we're gonna be pushing up anyways. We're going to try and save these back objectives for later, because hopefully he'll have a tougher time taking those later on, and I can outbody him. Then just to walk you through his list, this is a Big Waaagh list, so he can mix all the Orc clans. So over here we have Gobsprakk, just a really good spellcaster, can unbind my things, potentially kill my little foot heroes when they cast, so I've got to be careful on that. Rippa's Snarlfangs, they're just a little fast mobile unit. They can pile in 6, which is a cool little trick. A unit of 5 Brutes, and a unit of 10 Brutes. And with Violent Fury, the Brutes can just do a ton of damage. And a squad of 10 especially, that's 30 wounds on a 4-up save. They're going to do 1,000,000 attacks at 2 damage each and just kill whatever they touch in my army. A squad of 3 Gore-gruntas, which all the Orcs have like pretty good stats. These guys are just a little bit faster, so they're a good use of the Mighty Destroyers to move in your hero phase, then move again and just jump on top of something. And then a squad of 20 Ardboys. And again, these are 2 wounds each. These are 3-up saves. That's 40 wounds. Super, super bulky. He deployed them all onto this piece of terrain, so to get an additional +1 to their save, which just means turn 1, I'm not going to jump out of a gnaw hole, send in PCBs and hit that, because I'm just not going to kill him, and then I'm going to die instantly. Then just your classic Iron Jaw support heroes. We got 2 Warchanters, and then the Shaman. The Warchanters just pick a unit, give it an extra damage, which rules. There's no dice roll involved, it just happens. And then the Shaman, he's going to use that one to teleport a unit. Then they can use Mighty Destroyers on themselves afterwards to move. So for example, the pigs can drop outside of 12. So that way when they Mighty Destroyers, they're outside of 12 and they can do a full move. And their movement is 8 inches, so they're going to close that 12-inch charge down to a 4-inch charge. Since they teleported, they can't move in the movement phase, but they're already 4 inches away, so that's an easy charge for them to make. And then last but not least, he's got an Ardboy Big Boss up here, and he can improve the rally of the Ardboys where they're rallying back on 5s, which just means if I don't kill the whole squad, he's going to keep bringing them back. Then he can also improve their Shield Bash, which is a little mortal wound trick they do at the end. It gives it a +1 to that roll, so they're doing it on 5s instead of 6s. So for me, when I'm looking at it, just these Ardboys right now, can't kill them. These Brutes hit like a truck. Even the squad of 5 Brutes, if he can get that Warchanter buff onto him, is going to hurt me. So we deploy, he ends up making me go first, which is the typical move. So I've got to think about which objective do I want to try and take, because I really don't want to control it for 2 turns in a row, because then it disappears for me. So I'm looking at his position on the board. Like in a dreamscape, I want to hold this one, because that's going to be very difficult for me to chew through all this stuff to get back there later on. And he's not deployed on it right now. Even if I control this one, not so bad, because he's going to want to push into me no matter what. So if I take this one, he's likely going to take it back from me, and then I won't hold it for 2 consecutive turns. I'll just have to go somewhere else to control the objectives. And then over here, like, this looks like late game I'll be able to get over there. Like Gobsprakk, that's something I can kill pretty easily. So we'll try and leave those alone for now and save them for later. So we go for my turn 1 battle tactic, and we're just going to do Magical Dominance. I end up having the Warbringers outside of 30, as well as the Greyseer back here. I put Screech up here to be within 30 of Gobsprakk. They've got a spell that can do like -1 to my charges, so I really don't want that to go off, so just to give me a chance to unbind it. I've got the Acolyte Battalion, so I'm going to have Primal Advantage, hopefully an extra Primal dice for trying to unbind his stuff. So we'll try and stop that spell with everything we got. So we go to our hero phase, we cast our spells, we go for the Dreaded Death Frenzy, and we fail, we don't get it off. Then we go for a Mystic Shield, get it off on the Warbringer, and then we go for a Death Frenzy, put it onto these guys here. So at least we have one instance of Death Frenzy up. Prayers, we go ahead and do Rabid, get +1 attacks. I think I end up blessing them, give them a 6-up ward as well. Then one important thing to note for this battle, these two houses over here, these were garrisons. And garrisons, they're not my favorite mechanic, but it is something that exists in the game, and we'll get to where they make an impact later on. So for movement, we just run these clan rats up this way. We move the PCBs up behind them. Move these plague priests up behind them. Now being very careful here with these clan rats, I don't want to take this objective yet, so we're just taking this one for now. Screech, I end up running him over here, just staying just off the objective. We're getting him in a position where if these guys move up, he'll be able to jump out this way. And as well, this is a garrison, so we're just being near it. These clan rats move up just a little bit. I make a nice little cubby hole for the hell pit, and then we run him up into it. And the Gracier just goes up behind. That way, if he does Mighty Destroyers move these brutes in, I've got a Blizzard threat in range of here or of Screech, so I'll be able to hit wherever he hits me. The Warbringer, we end up running over this way just to get behind this little screen we built. And we go to the end of the movement phase. Here, I still only control one objective, so we need to get up over there somehow. And looking at my options, I have the Gracier here. I could send through the Gnaw Hole up there and touch. But then, like, he's just going to move over and destroy him. And I really don't want that to happen. That's my grand strat. I could have tried to Skitter Leap one of the big rats and put him over there. But again, like, whatever I stick up there, 20 Ardboys plus pigs, like, it's just dead. So I've got to figure out what's going to be a good thing to sacrifice to just get this objective turn 1. So we end up Gnaw Holing this Gracier over this way. Keeping him just off of this objective. I still don't want to take it. And the reason I put him over here is just this is going to give me another Unbind at Gobsprakk at +1 to try and deny that spell. And then we go ahead and we send in the PCBs. So first up we send the Drill, just 9 inches away from these Ardboys. And the PCBs drop in wholly within 13 inches of him. Then, since it's still the end of the movement phase, I can still use my Gnaw Holes. And so, since I'm wholly within 6, I'm going to Gnaw Hole these guys away from here. And so, why we did that, now this 160-point little doofus is going to take that objective, and if he dies, I don't care. I've got Plague Sensor Bearers back here, ready to counterpunch if he comes in this way, as well as getting them into Death Frenzy range from the Warbringer and buff range of these guys. So it's just going to give me another outlet to punch, and we're not going to lose them. If I deep struck him up here, I got to roll the charge, and even if I make it in, I'm just going to hit those Ardboys and not kill him. They're on a 2-up save on that terrain. They're going to all-out defense to stay on a 2-up. So like max attacks, like maybe I'm going to kill 4 or 5 of these guys. They've got a 5-up rally, and they 100% just kill all the Plague Sensor Bearers. So this is my best route of losing the least amount as possible. So that's the turn. I hold my 1 objective, 2 objectives, and more than my opponent, since he's not deployed on any of them. And we score our battle tactic, so 5 points for the round. And we move into Big Waaagh, bottom of 1. Alright, so Big Waaagh, bottom of 1. His battle tactic this time is going to be Sneak Up. And this is one of the strengths of the Big Waaagh army right now, is that they essentially have 5 free battle tactics where they don't have to engage with you at all. And then their grand strategy is also pretty much an autocomplete. So that's why I kind of went out on these objectives. I'm going to need to win this objective game or I'm going to lose the game. So Sneak Up is just he has to have all of his Cruel Boys units, which is just Gobsprakk, within range of like 3 inches of a piece of terrain. It's just automatic. There's no counterplay for me. I just have to watch it happen. So jumping straight into his hero phase, he goes for his spells. He goes for the -1 to charge spell, and I unbind it. And then the big one is he goes for a teleport from there, and I unbind that one as well. And that's big because, again, the teleport, he could send these like 20 Ardboys or these 10 brutes all the way down into my face. Mighty Destroyers move them and then have a pretty decent charge at me. But we got it unbound, so that didn't go down. The Warchanters go ahead and buff up the Ardboys with an extra damage and these 10 brutes. And then we just jump into movement. He did get 1 spell off for Gobsprakk where he gets to do a hero phase move. So let's move him down first. Alright, so into the regular movement. This was a hero phase move, so Gobsprakk moves down again. And he's going to go down here and try and kill my Gracier. But when he does that, I go ahead and I redeploy Screech to scoot over onto this objective. And so now if he tries to charge the Gracier, he actually can't really reach him. But Screech is going to be in combat anyways, and Gobsprakk loses that fight. So Not only is it preventing my Gracier from dying, but it's also going to make it to where he does not control this objective, because Screech counts as 5, Gobsprakk also counts as 5. So he was planning on this being one of the ones he controls for the turn. Now I'm forcing his hand, he's going to have to step on another one, which for this mission is great. So in response to that, he ends up running Rippus down this way towards this objective. The Brutes just follow up behind him. This squad of Brutes here in the middle just moves forward with a run. These Gore-gruntas here end up running down this way. Then the Brutes and this Big Boss follow suit. Then our support heroes just move up to stay into buff ranges. So Warchanter's just going to be in range to keep buffing these Ardboys or the pigs. Over here to get the Brutes. And then the Shaman's going to be in range to try and teleport something for the next turn. We go into the charge phase, and he rolls it for Gobsprakk, but then realizes that he actually can't get into this Gracier without engaging Screech. So he ends up choosing not to charge in Gobsprakk, because again, he knows that Screech is probably just going to kill him, and that's a terrible trade. But that's the end of the turn. He does end up controlling 1, 2, and since he took this one away from me, he does control more, plus his battle tactic for being near a piece of terrain, which is my Gnawhole, and he scores 5 points. We go into a big priority roll, and Big Waaagh wins the priority. He looks at the state of the board, thinks he's going to be able to crash everything in, so he takes the turn. So here we go, Big Waaagh double. All right, so top of 2, Big Waaagh, his battle tactic is he's going to have 2 Ironjawz units be within 6 inches of the middle of the board. And again, this is one I can't interact with. He's just going to run the Warchanter up and that Shaman up, and there's nothing I can do about it. It's going to be 2 points for him. Notably, he does control these 2 objectives. Since he's taking the double, these 2 objectives are going to disappear for him at the end of this turn after he scores. So that's good for me. At least those 2 center ones will be gone. It's going to have to stretch him out a little bit from there. He puts the Warchanter buff onto the Brutes to soup them up. And then he casts a spell to teleport them. So boom, that's where the Brutes end up. And then now, since most of his units are within 12 anyways, he chooses not to Mighty Destroyers. And I thought he might just to help get these Brutes up a little bit farther, or maybe to move one of the heroes, but he's in range where he can just run a regular run roll and make it, so we're going to go to movement. First up, he ends up running the Rippus Snarlfangs. Gets a really good run roll, which ends up getting him within 6 inches of this Gracier, which is cool because, again, they have a 6-inch pile-in, so it lets you run, and you can still be able to pile in combat even though you can't technically charge, which is a cool trick. This squad of Brutes just moves up. The Ardboys over here just move to be outside of 3. Big Boss just follows up behind him. He runs the 2 heroes to get within 6 of the center. And the other Warchanter just falls behind all these other guys. The pigs, he ends up moving down this way. With the double turn, he's just going to be able to move back here and then have a shot at these PCBs in the back, which was just a good move by him. Notably, he let me maintain control of that objective in the back, just so that way in my turn it's going to disappear. He's going and moving all of his stuff forward. I've got that Gnawhole over there, so if he takes it away from me now, I can't just Gnawhole over to it later, which again, good move by him. But one big mistake ends up happening over here with these Brutes. During the movement phase, he says that he wants these Brutes to jump into this garrison, which they're souped up. If they could get into this garrison, they get an additional +1 to save, they're -1 to hit, and everything within 3 inches would be considered in combat with them since you measure from the whole terrain piece. And so it would turn this squad into just a monster powerhouse unit in this house. And that's one interaction I really, really don't like. Garrisons are not my favorite. I don't think that the rules are intuitive, and sometimes they're a little bit too powerful. But it ends up biting him here because since he teleported the unit, they're not eligible to make a normal move. And in order to join a garrison, you have to have every model within 6 inches. Then it's instead of making a normal move, they can get into the garrison. So the garrison's rules being slightly confusing made him put himself into a bad position here. And normally I work with my opponent trying to see, well, is there something else you could have done? Or is there something else we could do to fix that? Just, it feels bad to have like a big swing my way when it's just them misunderstanding a rule. And it's a rule I had to look it up as well. Like I just didn't know. And we had to call the judge over and ask them just as, hey, what do we do here? Because neither one of us knew. And it ended up being, yeah, he can't join the garrison because he teleported. So they're stuck there. They can still make a charge roll with all the wall points involved. He's got +1, so he's going to need an 8-inch charge. So it's not the end of the world. And he had already done all of his other movements and buffs and everything else, so it wasn't something that we could easily go back and retcon. So he decided he's just gonna leave them there. We're gonna go for an 8-inch charge, and we're gonna go into the charge phase. So he goes for the charge and fails it, goes for the charge again and re-rolls it, and fails again, so they end up not making it in. Which again, just garrisons, I really don't like those. Rest of it, the pigs over here, they charge, make it into these PCBs. These brutes go for a charge and end up failing as well, but that's one if he did come in, like, I've got my hell pit, I purposely put him within 3 inches of the front, so if 5 brutes come in, I'm gonna be able to clap them back with the hell pit. They're not gonna kill just the hell pit, so we'd be fine with that. All right, then we've got Gobsprakk over here. Since he was planning on these Ardboys to be in here to fight Screech probably first and kill him, now it's a situation where he's not going to charge Gobsprakk in to fight Screech by himself. And the same deal on the Snarl Fangs. He wanted to pile those into the Greyseer, but now Screech is in range, so if he does, Screech will kill those before he gets the chance. So we go to the combat phase, and he ends up fighting with the pigs first, which is a good choice. These clan rats can't do any damage at all to these Ardboys. The Plague Sensor Bears could hurt the pigs, so he fights with them first. Piles in, and he puts 2 pigs into the Plague Sensor Bears, 1 pig into the Plague Priest. But since the Plague Priest is within 3 inches of another unit with 3 or more models, he's -1 to hit. And then both of these also have a -1 to wound built into their War Scroll. And so he swings with all of his attacks and just totally whiffs. It was just a tragically bad dice roll. The -1 to wound really got him. And so he ends up only killing 1 Plague Sensor Bear, and then does like 2 damage to the Plague Priest. The 1 Plague Sensor Bear, we did have Death Frenzy on these guys, so they fight and does some damage to the pigs. It goes to my combat. I fight with the clan rats just because it's the only other thing in combat. We do nothing to the Ardboys. The Ardboys fight back and kill all of the clan rats. They got the Warchanter buff before for +1 to damage, so I'm a 5-up save. They're just gonna clean them up. One cool thing is that when I piled in the clan rats to fight, I also piled in the Plague Sensor Bears a little bit extra, just because that's one of our army abilities. And we fight, and we end up killing all but 1 pig who's alive on 1 wound. Then that ends up being the turn. He does control 1, 2, and more. He got his battle tactic for being in the center, so he still scores max 5 points. Taking the double turn early like that, though, this really got him, because you really want to take advantage of it and just do a ton of damage, and these guys not making it in. That was the big swing there in this turn, which is unfortunate. All right, so we're going into rats, bottom of 2. And my battle tactic this time is going to be led into the Maelstrom. I'm going to charge a hero and a battle line unit. We've got battle line everywhere. We got heroes in range, so it should be pretty easy for me. And we go to our hero phase. We start off with the dreaded 13th into Gobsprakk, and we get it off. And that ends up doing like 8 mortal wounds to Gobsprakk. We summon in like 8 little clan rats back here. We do get dreaded Death Frenzy off on these 2 this turn. And we get our prayers off onto this squad here to buff them up. In the hero phase, one of these guys ends up doing the Pestilence prayer. On a 3-up, we do a mortal wound to this guy, which clears him out. We got Flaming Weapon off on the Warbringer, and so we're ready. We're going to movement. First up, we run these clan rats, and we're going to build ourselves a nice little screen off of this garrison. The Hell Pit moves over here towards these heroes. Warbringer moves his full movement over this way. I know that the Ardboys are the toughest thing that he has, so getting his artifact to have the -1 rend additional is going to be big into that fight. We move these PCBs up as well. And after I move that one, he goes for a redeploy on the Ardboys, which again, that's the best move he could make, but he rolled a 1, so they only scoot 1 inch back. So then I move these PCBs up to be outside of 3, and we keep our Plague Priest up here behind him in range of the Gnawhole for the bonus. This Greyseer runs up here behind these guys, again just staying in blizzard range of everybody. Then this Greyseer, we Gnawhole him away over this way. Again, we're just going to be in blizzard range just in case this combat doesn't go well. And just getting him safe away from all the rest of this stuff. And then we go for our charges. First up, we charge the clan rats that we summoned in from Screech's dreaded 13th spell. You set them up outside of 9, wholly within 13 of him. So we go for the charge, and boom, we hit the 9 right out the rip. Then we charge Screech in. He's in his Rend 3, damage 3 stance on his Glaive. We knew we were going to go into Gobsprakk this turn. Him taking that many mortal wounds in the hero phase is going to make it to where I should be able to drop him. Clan rats stay put because they ran to make the screen. Hell Pit charges into these 2 heroes. Warbringer charges up over here. staying outside of 3 of that big boss. We're going to pile into him later to make sure we score our battle tactic of being in range of somebody. But that's also these clan rats, they shouldn't kill Rippas, so we've got 2 chances at that. We'll see how things shake out. And then all the Plague Sensor Bears, boom, boom, go straight into these Ardboys. We go for Monstrous Rampages. The Warbringer gets the roar off on the Ardboys, which is big. Then Screech just goes for a Titanic Duel to give himself +1 to hit in case he gets roared back. Gobsprakk ends up Titanic Dueling back because he knows the roar wasn't going to do what he needed it to do there. First combat, I've got a choice. I've got Screech, PCBs, or the Warbringer. Gobsprakk won't be able to kill Screech, so I think that one's fine. So then it goes down to these Ardboys who do have the Warchanter buff. So if I attack with the Warbringer first, they're going to take a big chunk out of the PCBs who do not have Death Frenzy. If I attack with the PCBs first, he's going to hit the Warbringer. So which one has a better likelihood of surviving? It's going to be the Warbringer. The way I've got everybody piled in, it's going to be tough for him to pile in a ton of bodies to be able to attack over there. So what I do is I fight with the full squad of 10 first, since they can still get everybody into combat. And we give them an all-out attack from one of the heroes, and we swing into the Ardboys. The PCBs hit, we end up killing like 12 or 13 Ardboys. Going over to his combat, he ends up piling these Ardboys in and gets to fight as many of them as he can into the Warbringer to try and drop him. I go for an all-out defense, and we end up living. They do a lot of damage. I think he's got like 5 wounds left after the combat, so it was a gamble to try and kill him, but I think it was a good gamble. It just didn't pan out. Goes over to my combat. I fight with Screech. I give him his command of +1 to hit, +1 to wound. We hit and we kill Gobsprakk. Next up, he fights with one of the heroes, does a few wounds to the Hell Pit. The Hell Pit then fights into those 2 heroes. He does 6 attacks on one profile, 6 on the other. So I just split it evenly, 6 and 6, and kill both heroes. He fights over here with Rippa Snarlfangs and piles in, killing 4 or 5 clan rats. So in the next combat, I go with the Warbringer. And I could have tried to pile in with these PCBs, but I would only got 1 or 2 in range. I'm not going to kill all the Ardboys, and I really don't want them to rally back. So I end up leaving the Ardboy Boss outside of 3, and we just fight all the attacks into the Ardboys, and we kill them all. Then these guys, since they charge, they do pile in towards the closest enemy unit. Then we go to Battle Shock, and these clan rats over here end up running, which is okay, because again, Screech charge, he's still in range, so we're good. We go to scoring, we hold 1, 2 more, and our battle tactic for 5. So overall, just an excellent turn for me. The Ardboy block is the most durable thing he has. Gobsprakk is just a big nuisance for denying my grand strategy, because he can kill my wizards whenever they cast. And just board presence wise, like all of his power is stuck here. There are no more teleports and anything to move them around. So building this screen, these guys can go here, they can go there. But then I'm just going to be in range with my 2 bigs to come over here and clear them out. So we go for a priority roll, and I end up winning the priority. And looking at the board state there, my opponent, he decides to concede there. This turn, I would be able to kill too much of his stuff. Just between Screech's spell and combat, I would kill most of these brutes. The Hell Pit could walk over here and kill those 5 brutes. And then between all the power we have here, these guys are done. So he likely would have been tabled at the end of the turn. So we walked it out as far as what battle tactics I couldn't score, and that ended up being the game. So that's the game. We're 3-1 now and heading into round 5. We got the 4-1 Dream still alive, and we pair into Slaves to Darkness. For this one, he's got Be'lakor, he's got 10 Chosen, he's got some Varangard. So gonna have to play a good game. He's gonna hit me hard. He's gonna turn off some of my stuff. So check that one out next week. And if you ever need any models, hit us up at warpfirereadies.com. Thank you.